Hello again. I'm back with another coaching video. In this video, I'm going to be going over a small theory I like to call segments or segmentation. And I don't think this has been talked about a lot. I don't think any coaches have really talked about it unless someone tells me otherwise. But I'm going to be going over this theory with you. So, what exactly are segments? Well, I've kind of set it up already. So, with these three yellow lines covering each third of the map. So again, your defensive third, almost the middle of the map, as well as the offensive third, so the opposing plot. I'll be using Inkblot Art Academy for simplicity's sake, as it's easier to describe and show examples. But other than that, let's get started. So, what exactly is segmentation? What segmentation is almost a way to take a step back or allow players to take a step back and understand what their priorities are. Like, what space exactly do they need to take back? If they're on defense, you're probably going to try to take control of this defensive third first, then progress through mid, take control of mid, and then eventually when you do get a push going, then you would take your offensive third. But the thing is with people who don't think about it like this is that they almost like skip the step. Like they skip their defensive third completely and they take mid. Right away, while the tower is being pushed, say at around where this X is, give or take. This orange X, give or take. So what happens to this person, or why is not advantageous for this player in particular? Even though they may think it's like a flank opportunity, let's just say the other team has a lot of control in mid, and what the opposing team can just do, they'll probably easily recognize that flank, because they have most of the control of your defensive third, as probably pretty much all control of the middle of the map as well. They will more than likely call out your flank, if anything, and either acknowledge that, hey, there's someone flanking, so they can push further and take advantage of the numbers advantage that's in front of them. So that just takes advantage of the 3v4 situation. Or they can come back around and almost win the fight every single time because of their map advantage. Like you don't have much space to move around, or the player wouldn't have much space to move around compared to their opponents. And that would just lead to a stagger and this red person's team to have to wait for them to respawn so it can actually have a full like force of a defense. Another thing that can happen if you don't complete your segments really is that flanks do happen. So I guess we'll change it over to offense instead of defense. So say you're pushing the tower and it's about in the choke coming up the ramp. And you don't have much control of mid because you just pretty much want to start to push right away. What enemies can do, let's just change the color. What enemies will tend to do with this time and with the lack of control you have, they'll do some sort of flank like this or like that and be behind the tower. And they would do this because they already have the map control there and you wouldn't be able to see that on your map. Like, hey, there's a paint path behind us that's more than likely a flank. Unless you understand like the patterns that people have gone through. But again, this is just for simplicity's sake. So you don't have much map control, but your opponents do still in mid. This allows this flank to enter undetected and almost just get to the tower fairly easily and get a free pick off. Getting that one initial pick off, even if they do trade, pretty much stops your push because again, now you're just going to have to wait for that last person. Or this is just going to cause a pinch play where the person flanking can just converge with the people who are defending in front of tower. And it makes the fight super awkward because again, you can't focus on two things at once. You're going to have to give in or back off. Now, if you were to follow that, again, that sort of thing would happen. If you were to paint all of mid it would be probably pretty easy to catch on to flanks or painting flanks that'll happen, or these flanks will take longer to happen altogether because they'll probably have to paint, if anything. Another thing, whoops, didn't mean to do that. There we go. Another thing with segments is that it gives teams goals, or I would say this is really big for mid to lower level teams, sort of thing, to where they have their primary goals and what they have to have in mind for any particular moment of the game. So it's like, okay, my objective is to stop the tower once around here. How am I going to do that? Where am I going to position that's relative to that? And I'm going to position myself somewhere here that'll be advantageous. It allows me to fire on the tower if I can. Instead of going for these flanks, that just leaves them out of position and not really relevant to what's going on at all. And again, that 3-4, that stagger, all that fun stuff. But probably some lower people are thinking like, how exactly do I break through a segment, or how do I complete a segment together? So I would say the main goal, or like I guess the big check mark for completing a segment, is pretty much controlling each part with your paint. Like that's a healthy way to think about completing a segment, having territory for the most part in your color of ink. If you're able to do that, you pretty much complete a segment. If it's not quite complete, again, those flanks, those staggers, those being out of position, those sort of things can happen, and then just what leads to a stagger or you getting picked off unnecessarily, or just unwanted pinch plays altogether. And I guess another question people may have is like, how exactly do I break through? So if it's just like a stalemate, a lot of displacement specials definitely do help with clearing out this space and allowing you to paint. So any of your displacement specials, so let's just say your big ones, Inkstorm, Booyah Bomb, probably Killer Whale if you're good enough with it, Crab, Ink Strike, Chump, Wave Breaker, and lo and behold, Tenta Missiles. Those are all really close together, but these 7 specials are really good displacement specials and would easily allow you to take a segment back. Like 1 or 2 of them would allow a segment to be taken back. And I guess that's more of an easy way for lower level teams to just gain their footing or coordination. If you want to not use a special or don't want to commit a special, again, what most people tend to do is pick off stragglers. So if you're on the defensive third, you would pick off this person in front, and that would lead to the rest of the team probably backing up and you being able to take this space. Take this space back before they're able to regroup. And then once you take that space again, it just goes to the next step and then to your next offensive third. That's about all I have to share about segments. If there's any questions in particular, I'd be happy to discuss and answer them with anyone. Thanks and have a good one.